So the agitation volume knob has been turned down to about a 10. And Primobolan raises that to about a 12 on a scale from 1 to 100. Trenbolone is like 120. So just to give you as a reference, game over. No, never again. Welcome to Vigorous PEDs yet again. I'm Coach Steve, and we're going to continue with the Primobolan Shark Week and talk about dosing and protocols, because that's probably the most favorite video that everybody's been waiting for patiently while I went over the history, the immune system, the hematocrit, and how it acts as an aromatase inhibitor and everything that it affects alongside of it. But before we go into the dosing, I'm not going to ask you to like. You should do that automatically. I shouldn't have to ask, but it's still highly appreciated. I'm going to follow in Derek's footsteps and beat him to the punch, because I am the Primobolan Pro, and tell you, how does it feel to be on Primobolan? And it's quite mild. It doesn't compare to Trenbolone, Halotestin, Dianabol whatsoever. You're adding a little bit of extra androgens on top of your testosterone base. Usually on testosterone you feel pretty good, unless you really mess with your hormone balance and your sex drive is completely off. In most cases, if you've been taking testosterone moderately and you've controlled your neurosteroids and your estradiol levels and everything else accordingly, you should feel pretty good. And by adding Primobolan on top, you should feel just as good, but you might be a little bit agitated. You won't be as agitated as Trenbolone or Halotestin, but you will be agitated. Again, Primobolan is a DHT derivative. Guys that convert testosterone into DHT at a higher rate compared to what is average are perhaps a bit more irritable or easily triggered by certain words compared to before they were using Primobolan. I experienced the same thing with Anavar, so regardless of the dose, I feel it at a reasonably low dose of 5 milligrams per day, Anavar, and I feel it at a low dose of 200 milligrams Primobolan per week, and it doesn't scale with increasing the dose from 200 milligrams Primo per week to, let's say, 1,000 milligrams of Primobolan per week, and it doesn't scale with 5 milligrams of Anavar per day to 25 milligrams of Anavar per day. The agitation level stays the same, but it's like a subconscious agitation, and I would almost compare that to being on diet. Now, 200 milligrams of Primobolan is more than enough during the off-season, and 1,000 milligrams of Primobolan per week, well, that's usually during a cutting phase, in which case you'll be more agitated regardless, because calories are down and carbohydrate intake is severely or somewhat restricted. Your blood sugar fluctuates. And oh man, you go from highs and lows and being happy right after the meal to being severely agitated before the meal. And 1,000 milligrams of Primobolan is going to exacerbate that, but it doesn't even come close to the agitation you would feel on Trenbolone or Halotestin. Could also be the case because Primobolan you generally run in the beginning of a contest prep or a cutting phase, and then at one point, most people pull the trigger and it's like, oh, they get on that there Trenbolona, bro. Because otherwise they're afraid they won't look hard, freaky, and dense, etc. But take it from me, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in the protocol. You can run Primobolan for a substantial amount of time to the end of your cutting phase, and then throw in a little bit of Winstrol, and you're done. Really, will look absolutely amazing. I guarantee it, if and only if you're in true condition. Not if you're 10% body fat and you have to flush everything out with diuretics. Yeah, then you look 8% body fat, stringy, flat, because there's no volume to your muscles because you took all the electrolytes out. So we won't go over that. The only noticeable difference that I feel by adding Primobolan on top of my protocol, and some of my clients notice the same thing, is agitation, which is easily mitigated by increasing your caloric intake, or staying away from current news, unless it's about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's in a very good position right now. That's good news for me, and hopefully for some of you guys out there that are trading in Bitcoin, that's good news as well. That's why I'm in a good mood right now. Well, even though I'm off the Primobolan, and I've used Primobolan for 8 weeks now. But my wife noticed that after discontinuing the Primobolan, she said, yeah, you're much more mellow and relaxed and not as irritable and agitated as you were before, even though you were in a steep caloric surplus. So that's the only noticeable thing that I can mention, how you feel when you add Primobol on top of your testosterone dose. So the agitation volume knob has been turned down to about a 10, and Primobolan raises that to about a 12 on a scale from 1 to 100. Trenbolone is like 120, so just to give you as a reference, game over. No, never again. Trenbolone, never again. So let's go into the dosing. And it's very simple, and I've alluded to this many times before already in the other Primobolan videos, and whenever I mention Primobolan, testosterone and Primobolan in a 1-to-1 ratio. And that concludes this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next... Okay, stop. Stop the dislikes, put them back into your pocket. I'll clarify a little bit. Okay, 1-to-1 ratio, step number 1. Yeah? I discussed in the testosterone video already step-by-step approach. You replace some of the testosterone with Primobolan and try to make that end up at a 1-to-1 ratio. I feel that 1 milligram of Primobolan gives the same amount of anabolism compared to 1 milligram of testosterone. It's clearly not as potent as Trenbolone, but again, the agitation is a trade-off for the amount of anabolism you get. I prefer a little bit less anabolism and get that from food, and keep my Primobolan dosing moderate. 100 milligrams a test, 100 milligrams of Primobolan. That's already a great starting point. I have several hormone replacement guys on this protocol. They don't require an aromatase inhibitor. They're adding DHEA and pregnenolone to supplement their neurosteroids and get their estradiol in a favorable range for that libido power in their hormone replacement plus Primobolan cycle. And then for the bodybuilders, like I've proven myself to you guys a couple months ago, 250 tests, 200 milligrams of Primobolan. Now, I should have followed my own advice and taken 250 milligrams of testosterone and 250 milligrams of Primobolan per week. But I like convenience. 1 ampule of Primobolan is 100 milligrams, and 1 ampule of testosterone is 250 milligrams, so half a cc of testosterone and a full cc of Primobolan. Twice per week, Monday and Friday, resulting in 250 tests, 200 Primo. And adding another 50 milligrams of Primobolan on top would result in me splitting the ampules into quarters. And now that ampule is opened for 2 weeks, because I take a quarter on Monday, quarter on Friday, quarter on the consecutive Monday, and another quarter on the Friday after. Maybe 0.3, because again, Bayer Primobolan, sometimes it gets overfilled, so you get 1.1, 1.2 milliliters. Again, Pharma and Bayer, you're the best. So it's a little bit cumbersome to get 250 milligrams of Primobolan per week because you have to store half of the ampule for another week. And I don't like to keep these ampules or carrioles exposed to the air longer than needed. And then the next logical step would be 375 milligrams of testosterone enanthate and 400 milligrams of Primobolan. So the testosterone jumps up with 125 milligrams per week, and Primobolan jumps up with 200 milligrams of Primobolan per week. Again, I'm going with convenience. Half an ampule of testosterone 3 times a week, and 2 cc's of Primobolan on top twice a week, resulting in 400 milligrams. So you can take that step by step, increase your doses accordingly, and try to estimate or get around that 1-to-1 ratio. I feel that in most cases, people's results are best. Because again, you can really overdo the Primobolan, and beyond 1,000 milligrams per week, unless you're really, really big, beyond 1,000 milligrams per week, I don't feel there's any more cosmetic benefit or any more anabolic benefit on top of whatever dose of testosterone that you're taking. So if you really like that Primobolan look, but you don't like testosterone so much, or you're allergic to it, or you have adverse effects, or you're a feminist, I don't know, whatever sets you off that doesn't make you like testosterone. Everybody has their choice. Personally, I love testosterone. Testosterone is the greatest hormone known to man. And then growth hormone and insulin follow a close second. Primobolan and Anavar, 4th and 5th. Fighting for the 4th and 5th spot, depending on what's available and what I feel like. So let's say you're happy with testosterone and a hormone replacement dose, whether that's bodybuilding hormone replacement or true hormone replacement. It varies between 100 milligrams of testosterone and, I'm not going to say 500 milligrams a test, even though it's not unheard of. I'm running hormone replacement. How much? 500 milligrams of testosterone. All right. You might mistake hormone replacement for cycle. Anyway, your body, your responsibility. So let's say 1 milligram of testosterone per 1 pound of body weight at 10% body fat before you guys start flaming me in the comment section. 1 milligram test per 1 pound of body weight at 10% body fat. And you figure out how much actual milligram that is. And if you want to cheat a little bit, you go with testosterone acetate. But the hardcore, proven, true bodybuilders will just say, okay, testosterone acetate, I'm 250 pounds, 250 milligrams of testosterone. That's my hormone replacement. Great. You want the cosmetic benefits and the anabolism and the overall appearance from Primobolan, and you're happy with how you look on this hormone replacement dose of testosterone, you only increase your Primobolan on top. So you might end up at 250 milligrams of testosterone enanthate per week, or propionate or cypionate or acetate, whatever you prefer. And then you add 300 milligrams, 500 milligrams, 700 milligrams, 1000 milligrams of Primobolan on top, at least until the point you're happy with your appearance. And again, your appearance also comes from body fat levels. So if you're over 10% body fat, I honestly don't think Primobolan is going to make a dent in your appearance. Because Primobolan and most of the DHT-based compounds really shine when you're sub 10% body fat. You can use it at 12% body fat, but sub 10%, you'll really see the cosmetic changes and they become apparent. So if you're 15% body fat, you might need 1000 milligrams of Primobolan to get a cosmetic benefit. But if you're 10%, 8%, maybe 6%, you might only need 500 milligrams of Primobolan to look cosmetically pleasing, because the body fat is not obscuring your look. So again, the Primobol dosing highly depends on your body fat levels. And when your body fat levels are high, even though I don't really recommend it, in order to get the pleasing look of Primobolan, you need to run it at a considerable dose. And that's probably where the bro science bullshit comes from. Oh, Primobolan is such a weak compound. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make you look good. Bro, you just need to get your ass in shape. Just need to get lean. And then Primobolan is a beautiful compound and makes you look like Wolverine or Thor or Captain America or Steve when he's lean. Really, it's a great compound and you don't need to run so much. You just need to get your body fat levels under control. Keep in mind, like we mentioned in the aromatase inhibitor video, lower body fat levels means less aromatase activity, and your testosterone dose might be insufficient if you keep it at hormone replacement, because a substantial amount of Primobolan is acting as an aromatase inhibitor. So 250 tests at 12% body fat, and your estradiol is 30 picograms per milliliter on 500 milligrams of Primobolan. An example, reducing your body fat levels from 12% to 10% to 8% to 6%, and you keep your Primobolan the same because you're getting more cosmetically pleasing because your body fat levels are down. That 250 milligrams of testosterone might only convert into 15, 20 picograms per milliliter on serum estradiol. And I've seen guys that run 500 milligrams a test, but their body fat levels are so low that even with 500 milligrams of Primobolan on top, or 1000 milligrams of Primobolan, so that's a 1-to-2 ratio, their estradiol is almost in the single digits. So you really have to keep track of that. That's why I like the 1-to-1 ratio, because you don't crush the estrogen so much when you draw body fat. And again, I feel that Primobolan really shines when you're sub 10%. And if you're doing a photo shoot or a contest prep and you're ending up with 1000 milligrams of Primobolan because you want that super clean, beautiful movie star good look, on top of your freaky amounts of muscle mass, because 1000 milligrams of Primobolan shouldn't be attempted by guys that actually look like a movie star. You should be substantially large to get a movie star good look, referring to the polish and shine and cosmetic appear that you get when you run Primobolan. You shouldn't attempt to run 1000 milligrams of Primobolan just to look like Wolverine. Really, again, you need way less, maybe 200-300 milligrams at best, if it's real pharmaceutical Bayer Primobolan. Okay, so that's the other case. In some cases, you see that the estradiol conversion isn't so high, so you might run your testosterone levels a lot higher compared to your Primobolan dose. You're happy with 1,000 milligrams a test. You're at lean body fat. You don't get so much aromatase activity, and 300 milligrams of Primobolan on top is more than enough to take your appearance to the next level. And in other cases, when you have financial constraints, the third compound that we can talk about, given that your estradiol levels are good and your sexual binding globulin levels are not too low, is masterone. So let's say you ended up at 500 milligrams of testosterone and 500 milligrams of Primobolan. You want to take that cosmetic appearance to the next level, but you can't afford another 500 milligrams of Primobolan or 300 milligrams of Primobolan. Adding 200 milligrams of masterone enanthate on top of your Primobolan and testosterone in a 1-to-1 ratio will almost give you the same appearance as doubling your Primobolan. Really. So it's a budget option. Now, personally, I don't like masterone because there's no pharmaceutical grade masterone available, and I don't have access to masterone that is in carrier oil that I like to administer into my own body. So masterone for me is off the table. Personally, I'm not worried about the potential for hair loss that masterone and Primobolan can induce because it appears that I'm not really prone to androgenetic alopecia. I mean, I've run a significant amount of Primobolan and masterone in my day, and yeah, so far so good. So if you're on a budget and you want a little bit of the polish of a higher dose of Primobolan, but you can't afford a higher dose of Primobolan, a very low dose of 100, 200, maybe 300 milligrams of masterone enanthate or masterone propionate, I would go with masterone enanthate because propionate, yes, you get more milligrams per milligram because the propionate ester is so much lighter compared to the enanthate. But injection convenience plays a contributing part in deciding which compound you're going to take. And if you're taking testosterone enanthate and Primobolan or methanolone enanthate, why don't we run drostanolone enanthate on top as well? That's a lot of enanthate esters in the body, but hey, your body actually produces these enzymes called esterases to cleave off the enanthate ester. So why don't we do enanthate everything, testosterone enanthate, methanolone enanthate, and drostanolone enanthate, instead of going to drostanolone propionate and you haven't used any propionate ester for a long period of time, and these esterases are a little bit confused. Enanthate, but I've tried to break down the propionate and it doesn't really work, and now you get weird serum concentrations. Again, of course, these enzymes will come back and start to cleave off the propionate, so don't worry about that. So for this example, for the sake of convenience, let's go over the administration protocol for 500 test, 500 Primo, and 200 masterone. 250 milligrams of testosterone twice per week on Tuesday and Saturday. Primobolan 3 times per week, 200 milligrams Monday and Friday, and 100 milligrams on Wednesday. And you can do 100 milligrams of masterone enanthate on maybe Monday and Friday as well. Or maybe 100 milligrams masterone on Wednesday and 100 milligrams on Sunday. Ideally, you would go with the least amount of injections, even though they might be of a higher volume. So let's say if we do 3 injections per week or 2 injections per week, 250 milligrams of Primo plus 250 milligrams of testosterone and 100 milligrams of masterone, that's probably already 4.5 cc's. And if you're running castor oil and the masterone is in grapeseed oil, that's a pretty thick injection. So you might want to space those apart. So let's say 2 cc's per day. That's your injection budget per day. You can combine 100 milligrams drostanolone enanthate with your testosterone injection on Tuesday and Saturday. So that's 1 cc testosterone and 0.5 cc masterone enanthate. And then the other days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 cc's Primo Monday, 0.5 cc Primo on Wednesday, and 2 cc's Primo on Friday. Just an example. I'm not telling you to do this. This is how I would do it if I had access to masterone in organic carrier oil like a cottonseed, grapeseed, sesame oil, MCT oil even. I would prefer grapeseed oil because of its viscosity matching as close as it can to the enanthate ester of drostanolone enanthate. Man, it was a mouthful. Third compound, or second compound that I like to add on top of testosterone or Primobolan, and goes very well together, Anavar. The best. You only need a very, very low dose. Your foundation is testosterone and Primobolan, and you're simply adding on top the Anavar at 5 to 10 milligrams per day if it's legit. You don't need any more to facilitate mind-muscle connection and additional collagen synthesis. Of course, the unique characteristics of Anavar is that it promotes so much collagen synthesis in connective tissue and the skin, etc. So testosterone, Primobolan, and a low dose of Anavar, that's a very pleasing functional physique. Because, again, Primobolan, especially at a higher dose, might make you a little bit tight because it is a DHT derivative and it might reduce your serum estradiol concentrations depending on the dose of testosterone that you're taking or masteron that you're taking alongside of it. Don't combine test Primo, masteron, and Anavar. No, choose a third compound, leave it at that. You're not going to combine 5 different anabolic steroids unless you're doing a contest prep, and it might be a necessity at one point. Hire me as a coach, really. Personally, I really like that combination, but I'm in a little bit privileged position because I can buy all these compounds, Test Primo and Anavar, pharmaceutical grade here at the pharmacy. So it might not be possible for you. Maybe your Anavar is actually Winstrol, but Test Primo and Winstrol is also a valid combination, but only if you're at the end of a cutting phase. I wouldn't like Test Primo and Anavar. You can run that whether you're in the off season or a cutting phase or contest prep. It's always a valid combination. Even a hormone replacement. I got one client doing 150 test, 150 Primo, and 2.5 milligrams of Anavar on top. His blood work is absolutely perfect. His HDL is like 45, and his LDL is maybe 110, 120. So it's pretty close to the healthy reference range, even though he's on 335 milligrams of anabolics combined per week. So it's not exactly hormone replacement, but again, bodybuilders are going to bodybuild and they like a little bit more bang for their buck and remain in some sort of shape, even though they're considered to be on a cruise. So there's many different combinations in this sense. You can do testosterone, Primo, and Winstrol if you're reasonably lean. I'd say sub 6% body fat. Again, you don't want to dose the Winstrol too high when you're at a higher body weight percentage because you don't see the cosmetic changes. And since Winstrol really dries out the joints and has some anti-estrogenic effects by itself, similar to masteron, the amount of aromatase inhibition you get from Primobolan and adding Winstrol on top, and the reduced amount of aromatase activity that is already occurring when you're at 6%, 4% body fat is substantial. So again, you really don't need much of Winstrol. 500 test, 500 Primo per week, and maybe 30 milligrams of Winstrol on top. Don't do 100 milligrams of Winstrol per day when you're that lean. You will tear yourself apart unless you train like a banana. I think that's not derogatory. If you train like a banana, yes, you can dose the Winstrol substantially higher. But if you train like insane with hypertrophy in mind and you're following progressive overload, Winstrol is probably your worst enemy. You don't want to tear yourself apart unless there's something to win, like a pro card or prize money or a reputation. If you're just doing a photo shoot, testosterone, Primo, Anavar, more than enough. Now, during the off season, you might be able to replace a little bit of testosterone with boldenone and then add a little bit of Primobolan for a cosmetic effect on top. Just to keep you going and provide overall anabolism without blurring lines. I don't really like the combination of Primobolan and Trembolone because Trembolone, I mean, let's be honest, it's just budget Primo. So if you're a reckless bodybuilder and you're not promoting yourself on Instagram and you have no financial means, or you're just a silly gym rat, Trembolone 100% will give you more bang for your buck if you can deal with the side effects. The night sweats and the anger management issues and the incredibly reduced semen volume, which you don't get on Primobolan. Semen volume is maintained. Some people care about that. I care about that. It shows love and appreciation. I think that's a good analogy. The higher your semen volume is, the more love and appreciation you have for your partner, right? And on Trembolone, there's very little appreciation and very little love for your partner because it's such a terrible androgenic compound. All right, we'll not go over all the other side effects. We'll do that in a Primobolan profile video, maybe somewhere in 2025, or when I feel like it earlier. I feel that Primobolan is absolutely superior over Trenbolone in any way, shape, or form, unless you're on a budget. But if you have the financial means, Primobolan at maybe 3, even to 5 times the effective dose of Trenbolone. So let's say you get great results on 225 milligrams of Trenbolone. Maybe a comparable amount of Primobolan would be 600, maybe even already 1,000 milligrams of Primobolan per week. Now, you can't replace 700 milligrams of Trenbolone with what? 2,000 milligrams of Primobolan? That's not going to end well. You still want to keep the total amount of androgenic intake at an all-time low and just only use the required amount to get to your goal. So if you really need to be freaky, dense, hard, and dry looking, then Trenbolone is probably preferred. But, you know, if you consider all the side effects, especially at higher dosages, and I would take Primobolan hands down any day of the week. It doesn't matter if it costs me a fortune, because the side effects, well, besides mild increases of hematocrit levels and a little bit of agitation, it's basically side effect free. So I hope that wraps it up regarding the dosing and the protocols and how you feel on Primobolan. Thank you guys so much for watching. This concludes Primobolan Shark Week. Don't forget to leave me a like. And if you're not subscribed, now is a good time to do so. If you're looking for the most comprehensive ebooks about bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those on my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. If you're interested in personalized advice, you can find some of my services there as well, and the rates for personalized advice by email, a 1-hour consultation over Zoom, Skype, or WhatsApp, or direct coaching for 24-hour access per day, unless I'm sleeping. Again, if I'm sleeping, I won't be replying to your messages, but I'll reply the next day as soon as I wake up. Right from the moment I wake up, I reply to all of my clients. Okay, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.